Hi friends, it's Belinda here from BMakingJoy, and welcome to episode 50 of What Brings Me Joy, a mostly knitting podcast from my home here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where I share with you pretty much my knitting journal of the things that I cast on and the things that I finish, and I give you some sneak peeks at the things that I'm designing. I'm recording this today on Tuesday, April the 1st, 2025. And if you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, I'm so glad to have you back. In this episode, I have 3 finished objects and I've cast on 3 new projects. But first, just a little bit of a life update. But if you're just here for the knitting, you can use the chapters timestamps on the screen, on the bottom or on the side, to skip ahead. So, life update. It's been almost 3 weeks since my last episode, and I've only got a few things to share. I've gotten the results back from my mammogram and all the other annual physical stuff, and everything is pretty much fine, except for my cholesterol, my blood pressure are both slightly elevated. Bit of a wake-up call, but I need to get back into not being so lazy, get back into my exercise and better nutrition. And yeah, so I've been regularly trying to keep on track of that, and I go back to the doctor in June. A couple of really exciting things that happened. It's that me and Dan and Ilana, we went on a virtual reality tour of Egypt last week. It's called Horizon of Khufu, Khufu. And it's happening in a few different cities in North America. So I'll link the website. So it's a virtual reality tour. So the glasses and the headset, and then you're walking through a big empty room, but in your eyes and in your ears, you're in Egypt. And the graphics were really pretty awesome, and the whole thing was a really fun experience. So I recommend that. I'm not sure how much longer it's here in Calgary for, but I'll link the website. And let's see, this weekend, Dan and I went to Banff. He hiked up Sulphur Mountain with the group that he does his triathlon training with. They've been doing this hike every year. If you're familiar with Sulphur Mountain, if you're familiar with Banff, Sulphur Mountain is the one with the sightseeing gondola on it. So they hiked up the trail that switched back and forth underneath the gondola. And it's a 5.5 kilometer long trail, and the elevation gain is 655 meters. That translates into 2,150 feet of elevation gain in that 3.5 miles of hiking. So their challenge for the day is to see how many repeats they can do up and down and up and down. And Dan did 3 repeats. So proud of them. Some in the group did 5. Pretty awesome. And this year there was a dump of snow right before they did the hike, so it must have been a little bit of difficulty. I'm sure. A lot. I can't do it. I only did a short walk around town and then got a Starbucks and returned to the hotel room to work. And then it was Sunday when they did the hike, and that was the date that I Zoomed my congregation Sunday worship group on Zoom and did some work on my pattern release. And then we had a lovely fondue dinner together at the Grizzly House restaurant with our daughter. Our oldest daughter lives and works there in Banff, actually at the hotel. And as soon as we got back on Monday, I released my new pattern. So that takes me into finished objects. And the pattern release, that's this that I am wearing, the trainer cloak. And I'll insert footage of my daughter and I each wearing ours. Hers is back on the mannequin here. So this knits up in a fingering weight yarn on 2.75 millimeter needles. That's a US size 2. It gets you a nice dense weather resistant fabric. Used this just under 2,900 yards total. You of course can choose your color theme. You can choose a color for everyday wear, or you could put together a color scheme for cosplay. The knitting starts with a provisional cast on for the neck and works down, and then the button bands are added, and then the hood. I wrote it in only one size. It fits up to a 48-inch chest. And I simply think it wouldn't be feasible to work it into a bigger size just because of how much yarn it uses. So I'm going to stick with just the one size. Fits up to a 48-inch chest. So Ilana's stripe sample used 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon sock yarn. And my sample uses 25% Manclotin, 75% Punta's Arena's wool. This is the yarn that came from Ancient Arts Fibers here in Calgary. I guess they call it Lasco Fine. So yeah, I encourage you to use whatever color combo you like. In the instructions we include for the Pokemon version the graph for the back of the hood. But yeah, use your imagination, change the colors wherever, and create your own version of it. For my version, it was 2 skeins of this baby aubergine color and 5 skeins of this Kismet color. For the Pokemon version, I've got the breakdown in the pattern of how much I used for each color of that one. You can find the pattern for this in my Etsy shop and in my Ravelry shop, which are always linked in the description below. Now, while we're talking about my patterns, the test knit is underway for my Glow Knee Highs pattern. That's these socks, designed to showcase one special skein of yarn. So the feet are done in a solid color to let that skein be fully showcased. And there's still time to join in on that test knit on Yarn Pond if you're a fairly quick knitter. The deadline to finish is mid-April. The pattern will be published at the end of April. Yeah, of course, fingering weight yarn, written for 3 adult sizes, small, medium, and large. Yeah. Okay. Finished object number 2 is my skinny scarf. My modification of the Sophie scarf. This was my in the purse knitting, my on the go knitting, emergency knitting. But I modified the pattern so that it increased quicker, so that I could quickly get to the point where I wouldn't have to be counting rows. So notes are in my Ravelry page. I used Nettle Soft DK yarn from Ancient Arts. So because it's DK yarn, I got through the increases quicker. Fewer stitches because they're bigger stitches, right? The colorway is Tea and Biscuits. And this is yarn that I had left over from designing my seafoam crop top 2 years ago. And I think that's all there is to say about that. I don't remember what needle size I used. I don't think it really matters. You just use the needle size that is relevant to the yarn. Okay. And then my finished object number 3 is my lightning bugs wrap. Oops, I just found tails that I forgot to weave in where I joined the new yarn in the middle. My ends are woven in on the end, just not the joining ones in the middle. Anyway, this is my lightning bugs wrap pattern that I released back in 2021. Originally it was in worsted weight yarn. It's actually up there on the wall. I'll get that down and show you. I made that version into a poncho. But it's substantially heavy because of the worsted weight yarn. So I wanted to see what it looks like in a fingering weight yarn. It's very nice. I like it. So it's got a cable pattern in it. Elongated, no, not elongated. Cables that are spread apart like lightning bugs. And I used the sparkly yarn, so it's like lightning bugs in the hayfield. Reminds me of home. Part of my down home, memories of down home collection. So this yarn is a merino nylon stellina blend I got from Poppy Yarn and Fibers here in Calgary at a fiber festival a few years ago. And I was pushing it for yardage. It's like just enough with 2 skeins. Yep, the cable is an easy 24 stitch repeat, and you're only crossing the cables on 4 out of those 24 stitches. It still needs to be blocked, though it will probably spread a bit when I block it. I'll try to remember to show it to you again after I block it. Or at the very least, you'll find it on my Instagram page. Here is my original of that pattern, the lightning bugs wrap poncho. I sewed this version into a poncho. So those 3 finished objects should have brought my knitting WIP count down to 6, but I've started 3 new projects, so I still have a WIP count of 9. So let's look at these new projects and I'll explain why I've started them. So the first one, obviously I needed a new purse project since I finished the skinny scarf. So I cast on a new pair of socks. This is the Peyton's Croy yarn in the color red. And I started it toe up with the star toe, just like in my upcoming Glow knee-highs pattern. But I don't know yet if I will be making these into knee-highs. It depends on whether a coordinating variegated yarn skein shows up by the time I finish both feet. But the way the pattern goes is I do both feet with a star toe and a stepping out heel, and then finish both feet, and then join the feet together on a circular needle and work the legs 2 at a time, both from each end of the same skein of yarn. Yeah. So I cast on the toe and I put it in my purse, waiting for the next hockey game, but it didn't make it to a hockey game yet. Been a few other little things where I've worked on it here and there. There was a presentation at the arena for season ticket holders about the new hockey arena that's being built that should be ready for the Flames, the Calgary Flames, to use in 2027. So I worked on it a little bit during that presentation. And when it was time for us to go to Banff, this was the only project that was at an easy knitting stage. So it got an hour and a bit of knitting in the car. Now I'm only about half an inch away from starting the heel. So I think I will get the next toe on the needles and get it ready. I like to do all the increases and then shove it in the purse and have it ready for that emergency knitting. I think that's all there is to say about socks. So shortly before I finished the cloak, I needed a palette cleanser. I started a Love Note sweater in a summer yarn. Well, this is going to be a short sleeve version. The Love Note is a pattern by Tin Can Knits. I made one, I guess 2 years ago now, in a worsted weight yarn, a winter one in a purple, of course. And I made a ranunculus in that same yarn. And those two patterns are fairly similar in terms of gauge and oversized style. Anyway, so this is my summer Love Note. I'm already halfway through the second skein. I need to grab the label. I'm using a Queensland Collection Myrtle. It's a tensile fiber made from eucalyptus. And it's quite soft, but there is absolutely no structure to the yarn, much like a bamboo or any kind of tensile fiber. So it's very drapey, very loosey-goosey. I'm not sure how well that stitch pattern is going to show up. Well, not too bad. I'm not seeing it when I double layer them, but if I single it out, yeah. I didn't do a gauge swatch because it's such an oversized pattern. I thought that it's an inch or two of giveaway is not going to matter. I'm halfway through the second skein. When I finish this skein, I'm going to go back with the third skein. I only bought 3 skeins from a store in California, I guess 2 years ago. Anyway, so I'm going to go then finish off the sleeve. I'll do an I-cord bind off on that sleeve cap and it will end right there. And then I'll do the neck. This purple is a provisional cast on, so you take that out and put them back on the needle and do the neck. I'll do that before I go back to the body with the third skein of yarn. That way I know how it's all going to fit on the top, and then I can work how long it's going to be. Well, I'll probably go until I use exactly all the yarn. But the pattern itself does some high-low shaping in the hemline, some short rows, unless you're doing the crop version. So we'll see how far the yarn goes. I hope to have this finished. We're going to Hawaii the end of April, so I'm hoping to have it finished to wear there. My third new cast on is essentially a swatch for a new design idea. So I'm not going to tell you too much details about it. It's a cardigan. I already knew what gauge I get in stockinette with this yarn and these needles. This is sock needle yarn from Ancient Arts Yarns. It's the color of the month from a year or two ago. And I'm playing around with a stitch pattern to put in the yoke, the circular yoke cardigan. So instead of doing a traditional swatch, I just started the yoke to swatch my stitch pattern idea. And I did have to frog it and rewrite one line and work again. And I'm liking it so far, but like I said, I'm not going to share the details until I have the first draft of my pattern written, thus establish my copyright before I start sharing too much information. Yeah, I did do a little bit more work on my temperature scarf for 2025, but it's still way behind. Let's go through what are my other projects on the needles. I have 3 new cast-ons. I have the temperature scarf. I have 2 shawls. One is the Papillion shawl. One is the Go-Go Dynamo shawl. I have a placemat design idea almost finished to go along with my grandma's tablecloth pattern that I released in a couple of years ago. I have a stadium sit-upon pattern in a dodgeball design. All completely knitted, just waiting for me to sew it together. I hate seaming. And I have a dishcloth on the go. The dishcloths on the go on the treadmill. I did actually finish another one since the last episode, but I haven't been showing you those because it's the same thing over and over again from this huge 1 pound ball of Bernat Handicrafter cotton, you know, white, pink, and red. I'm making heart-shaped dishcloths in pattern by Heidi Kirameyer, a free pattern on her website. So that's my projects all accounted for. 9 on the needle still. That's a nice happy number for me. I don't have any new acquisitions to share this month, but come back next episode to see the new color of the month from Ancient Art Yarns for April. I hope to do my recording the next time on the week of the 14th. And until then, if you've enjoyed seeing my projects, please click the like button. And please tell me in the comments what's been bringing you joy this week. And until next time, happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy beading, happy sewing, happy photography, whatever it is that you like to do, go make some joy.